Welcome to our newest edition, our newest episode of How to Build Your Networking Skills in our Innovative Women in Leadership virtual event series. We have Iris Drayton-Spann joining us. Before we get started today, I just want to encourage you to use these hashtags if you want to join the conversation outside of this virtual event, whether it's on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on Twitter, whatever your social media of choice is. We encourage you to post some of the things that you hear, any of these like nuggets of wisdom that you feel like you want to share with your network, like we'll be talking today. You'll want to make sure that you use these hashtags, hashtag TE virtual events. You can shorten that, of course, to hashtag TEVE. We call this must see TEVE. And then, of course, our Innovative Women in Leadership hashtag, which is hashtag I will with one L. The other thing I want to encourage you guys to do is to use the chat function. Let us know where you're joining us from. Let us know what your name is, maybe what organization you're with, and some of the things you're hoping to learn from Iris in today's virtual event. Amelia, our program director, of course, monitors the chat function. So if you need anything at all, be sure and put your feedback there. And then, of course, with our virtual event series, we always give you the opportunity to join the conversation through the use of Thoughtexchange in the last 20 minutes of our virtual event series. Now I want to introduce you to Iris Drayton-Spann. She is our speaker today. I met Iris at a conference a few months ago, earlier this year, and I was just totally taken by her knowledge and her ability to support women in leadership through this particular skill of networking. And so I'm so excited to share her knowledge with you all today. Iris is the Vice President of Human Resources and Organizational Development for WETA in Arlington, Virginia. She develops, builds, and maintains a strategic human resources function that supports WETA's business strategy, aligning policy and programs with the organization's strategic plan, mission, values, and culture. As a member of the leadership team, Iris promotes positive employee relations and acts as a trusted advisor on human resources issues. She is also responsible for developing and implementing programs for staffing, employee relations, benefits, performance management, compensation, compliance, and professional development. With her team of 4, she supports over 320 employees. In this role, Iris reports directly to the EVP and Chief Operating Officer of WETA TV and is a member of WETA's Management Council. Please welcome Iris. We're so excited to have you here today.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here. I'm so sorry for the technical difficulties. They can't get the laptop up for everyone to see me, but I'm here. I'm here.
That's okay. We work for a technology company, so we know sometimes the technology doesn't always cooperate with us, but having you here with us, whether on video or not, Iris, is really something special. So we're so excited you're joining us.
Great, great. Thanks so much. Thanks so much.
So today our agenda, guys, is how to build your network. We're going to be talking with Iris today about the importance of establishing safe spaces for women to network, and then flipping your perspective. How can you help someone by showing up? And then lastly, we're going to be talking about tips for building your own network and creating your events. Of course, we want you to walk away from these virtual events with actual practical knowledge that you can begin applying to your life, both professionally and personally, immediately. And so Iris is going to talk to us about that. So now, before we jump into the interview portion of the virtual event, Iris, I want to just go through what I call my 5-star questions for our 5-star leaders. We've gotten to know you a little bit professionally by reading your bio, but this gives our attendees an opportunity to get to know you a little bit more personally. Are you ready for your 5-star questions?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay, here we go. Beach or mountains?
Beach.
Okay, an emphatic beach. I like that. Okay, road trips or air travel?
Air travel.
All right. In-person meetings or virtual meetings?
In-person meetings.
No technical difficulties with in-person meetings, right?
Never. No problems with that.
Okay, salty snacks or sweet tooth?
Sweet tooth.
All right. And Twitter or Instagram, which is your preference?
Instagram.
All right. Well, see, now we know all about you, Iris, both professionally and personally. And now we can jump into the interview. Thanks so much for sharing that stuff with us. So we're going to talk about networking. Talk to me a little bit. This is where I'd love to start with you, Iris. Talk to me a little bit about how networking has helped shape your career and how mentors have helped you in that same end.
I think for me, networking started a long time ago in my career, and I really kind of didn't understand it, and I just didn't know the purpose, which I think a lot of people just don't, understand why you're doing it. Is it just, bona fide small talk or just what it's about?
Right.
But started off a long time in my career, especially from undergrad, working at a consulting firm many, many moons ago. And that was a major part of our work is, our members would come, people we were doing work with. We'd have all of these social events and networking sessions, and for them to get to know the staff and us to get to know them and their needs and talk about what they wanted. So it started a long time ago, and I think it's always intrigued me because it seemed like it came very, very natural to people, and then some people, it was just really hard for them to wrap their heads around. I'm a very extroverted person, so it was fun for me just speaking with people, talking to them, getting to know them. But over time, I started realizing, so what is it we're trying to get out of this thing we call networking? And especially from a woman's perspective and a woman in leadership, what is it you're trying to do? Just to get to know the person on this really soft level, or just what is it? What is it you're looking for to do?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's great. I'm curious to know then, like from your, you talk a little bit about how it was easy for you and it was more difficult for others, and I think a lot of people when they think of networking struggle with that. Either you're an extreme extrovert or you're not. And if so, what do you do about that? But really, before we dive into that, I'm curious to know, you talked about the purpose of networking and how once you started being really reflective, you started thinking, what is this? Are we just getting to know each other? And especially from a woman's perspective, what is the main goal here? So talk to me about what you have identified as the main goal for networking.
For me, I think one of the big things about networking and what it's for is, what can I do for someone else?
Mm-hmm.
When you look at it from that perspective, that brings it home. That gives it purpose.
Mm-hmm.
What can I do for someone else? Everybody comes to the meeting, the networking, the one-on-one, the group setting. They come wanting something out of it. But if you look at it from, what can I give to someone else? You have an expertise. You have an area that you're just very fluent in, and you've been doing really, really great. And when you come into these settings, I just think of it from that perspective. What can I give to someone else?
Mm-hmm.
What can I share with someone else? Not just what can I get out of it, but what can I share with someone else? Because I think that's the thing that pivots the whole networking interaction that happens, is when you come from a totally different perspective, you walk away with something because you're not coming into it asking for something. You're coming into it to give something to someone else.
I love that. I think that that's really powerful, Iris, because, you talked a little bit about this idea of like, is it just glorified small talk? And I think a lot of people, there's this saying that I hear a lot that I think it's like kind of trendy to say, like, oh, I don't do small talk. I don't like small talk, and so I think that this really is saying, small talk or not, whatever, that's really not even what it is about. It's about you showing up and being open to what you can give to either one individual or to the larger group. And then I think the people who do feel any kind of hesitation or anxiety attached to the idea of small talk, that really just becomes a moot point, because now you're just really focused on the gifts that you can give.
And that's it. It's that purpose, because we all come with something.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times I've met many, many people, especially women. What can I give to the conversation? What is it? I haven't been in my industry long.
Mm-hmm.
No, there's something you can give. You can give curiosity to the conversation. Everybody can give something, where you've worked, your hobbies, your family, just something. There's something you can offer and give to the networking interaction and engagement you're going to have with someone, even if it's just a one-liner about what you love about where you work, or who you know at the event. That starts a whole different conversation. But it's all about changing that perspective, because you don't have to talk 15, 20 minutes or an hour with somebody. It can be 5 minutes, and that 5 minutes change could be powerful. It could be very powerful.
Mm-hmm, you're right. It's about the quality of the conversation, not necessarily the quantity of the conversation. So this Definitely. Is one of the things that you shared with us when I met you at the conference that was so powerful, and I'm really excited for you to share with our attendees today, is you were able to establish a safe space for women to network and talk to each other. Can you share that experience with me and the attendees, and talk to me about why that was so important and why it's even more important to create that safe space for women of color?
I think it was well, my real good friend Ramona Ivy and we had been talking for a couple of months about, we should do something for women just to get together and meet and talk. And she always shared with me, you have this great network, and she has a great network. And we were like, we ought to bring all these people together and just let them learn from one another and be in a space together. So that's what we did. We just had an event that was about 2 hours last fall, and it was just, all these women that we knew. We invited them, and they came from all walks of life, all ethnicities, nationalities, no matter what. Some were new to their careers, some had long tenured in their careers. I knew a couple of executive coaches. I made sure they were in the room, and we just made sure we had people representing all facets of work, from entrepreneurs to HR people to technical people to, with a few friends of mine that are doctors. I mean, it was all walks of life, and women were invited to this space. Even the photographer that my son recommended is a friend of his she's trying to build her portfolio, so I asked her to be the photographer, that gave her an opportunity to come into this space with all these women, take pictures, network, and build her portfolio. And I think what came from it, this space that was free for everybody who attended, we gave them a little question they could ask each other when they came in the room that helped break the ice a little bit and meet someone new. But they knew it was a safe space because we just emphasized we're just here to get to know each other, learn a little bit about networking. You might meet someone new, and you'll walk away knowing someone you didn't know before. And that just 2 hour time that didn't have a whole structured agenda around it provided that space for women just to talk and be with each other. And, my colleague Ramona and I were just really, really good friends. We just worked the room and would jump into little conversations we saw people having, and it was that. I think it was that. We had a little hors d'oeuvres, got to have a little food in your stomach, but I think it was the fact that we just had this space that they could come to. It was no set agenda. They knew they were meeting people from all different walks of life, but also from different careers, backgrounds, and the executive coaches that was in the room. And I thought that was important, too, because I wanted people to have access to that if they wanted it, the women who were there. If you need that, I had 3 different women I knew who were executive coaches who were like, I'm here, let me make sure I raise my hand and let people know who I am. And I think that just made a world of difference, the fact that they were able to talk, mingle. I had little, handouts on networking, what was it about, but I talked a little bit at the beginning about what networking was going to be for us that day, getting to know someone you didn't know when you walked in this room and sharing something about yourself and learning about someone else. And I think that really helped create that space. Nobody was selling anything. Nobody was trying to force anybody to do anything. It was just coming together to meet, talk, and engage.
I love that. I'm so curious to know, do you remember what the icebreaking question was?
So the question was, we had 2. One question was, how do you know Iris or Ramona?
Okay. And
the second question was, what is it that you do or that you want to do?
Oh, I love that. Oh, that's
so
great.
That way when you're talking to someone, if you're introverted or you're just not used to the whole networking environment, you didn't have to walk up cold and start talking to someone. We gave everybody those questions that they could use ahead of time.
Yeah, that's so great. Why do you think, Iris, I'm curious to know, because you did this so successfully, kudos on that. I think that sounds amazing. Why do you think that traditionally women have a harder time with the idea of networking than men per se?
I think the big thing is the women don't know the why. And we're curious. Everyone's curious. All people are curious. But I know for most women, we want to know the why. Why are we doing this? And for a lot of us, for so many times in our careers, we weren't invited to those events where people automatically networked. It might have been, at the golf course or someplace like that where men gravitated and knew one another and had those impromptu conversations. And for women, a lot of times, if you are invited to events and you have to go to these networking events, you're like, why do I have to do this? I mean, it's always the why. I've met so many women I've talked to about the why. And I think what really helped change their mind, and a real good friend of mine who I actually had speak at that networking event that I had, she was an entrepreneur. What changed for her is changing the mindset of not going in going, why am I here, but what can I give? What my purpose for being here? What can I give to someone else? That totally changed her mindset. And she sent me a nice little note that said, those few words changed everything. She's a business owner. She has to network. She hated it. And
Wow.
now she looks at it from a totally different perspective. She just recently had a big event that she was at, that she was the moderator of and speaking on being an entrepreneur, woman entrepreneur. And she said that just totally changed her perspective. And I think that's one of the reasons we're reluctant, because a lot of times women are like, why am I doing this? Why do I have to do it? And what's, just the whole purpose. They just wanted to know the purpose.
Right.
And not having to be in those settings all the time. I think once you figure out, what you can give when you go into those interactions and engagements, no matter what it is, at your alumni event, at a business conference for your, HR or accounting, whatever it is, MBA program, when you know what I'm coming in here to do, I can share something about me and what I can give, changes that perspective. And I think that's the thing with women. We want to know the why when we're coming to something. And especially women of color, we definitely want to know, why are we in here and what do we have to do? That kind of thing. And what's going to come of all of this? And I think a lot of times we have to, take a step back from fear and put ourselves out there a little bit. And you don't have to do it big and large. You can just do it small. You can meet 3 people at the next networking event that you go to. Just give yourself that goal. I'm going to talk to 3 different people, and I'm going to tell them about what I do, so that way I might can see if they need my help.
That's really great. One of the things too that you mentioned before when we talked about this was you gave us this really golden nugget, I think, about this idea that the small talk can seem very superficial. And one of the superpowers we have as women is to really, I think I'm gonna quote you on this, Iris, is to go to the basement with people. And so can you talk a little bit about that with our attendees, what that concept means and how we as women can really embrace that rather than be afraid of it?
Oh, I think we have to go to a place where we embrace that unknown. Okay, to embrace it. We won't know everything going into a space or a place or meeting people, and we have to embrace that unknown, and we have to be okay and comfortable with it, because it's not changing who you are or yourself. It's just accepting it's different, and it's a different place and space.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that you're right. I mean, embracing that unknown is really important when you're walking into a networking space, and being able to hold your compass of what you have to give will certainly help you there. But before we open up the conversation to the rest of the attendees, Iris, I'm curious to know what tips and tricks, you talked about like the purpose, the why, really focusing on just connecting with 3 people at your next one. Do you have any other really practical things that can help women as they build their network and as they start approaching networking opportunities?
Oh, well, I'd say my very favorite is LinkedIn. That has become my favorite thing. It is a space where you can go and, different people are reaching out to you. You can reach out to different people. It's a safe space because you're connecting with who you want to connect with. And you can manage it all and control it all. And I think that's the greatest place. Every time I meet someone, if I'm on a panel in person and I connect with them, they're on the spot. We go right to LinkedIn. We connect right there on the spot. And that way they can reach out to me. I can reach out to them. And it could be a question. It could be a follow-up. It could just be Iris, I see someone in your network. Can you connect me to them? Because it's someone I'm interested in that field that I'd just like to reach out to. And I'll do that virtual introduction. And I think that's the other thing, too. Be okay with giving that virtual introduction to someone, be it, online through LinkedIn, email, or if you are at an event and you know someone else there and someone might be interested in meeting that person with that background, expertise, and knowledge, be okay with connecting people. It doesn't have to be you all the time. It could be you connecting someone else. So I think that's the other nugget to me about when you are going to networking events and you're thinking about what networking means to me and where it can advance me, and also who you're meeting and who you're talking to. And if you say you're going to follow up with someone, do it. I'm a big believer in that. If you're in a network setting and you go to something, if you get that card, if you get that LinkedIn connection, follow up. That's the worst thing you can do if you're having this engagement with someone and talking to them and you don't follow up. It doesn't have to be a paragraph. It can be a sentence. It could be a let's meet for coffee, whatever that looks like. But you have to follow up. You have to. Because that person probably wants to share some time and space with you and get to know you more and get to know you better and where you're going and where you're headed. And if you don't follow up, they're going to go, okay, wash your hands and walk away. You have to follow up.
That's great. Okay, so just to recap, you talked about make sure you're embracing LinkedIn. It's a great place for networking. be diligent with, or be okay with virtual intros. Those are just as quality as in-person intros. And then also I think a extension of that idea of what you have to give is the idea of being a connector yourself. Not each connection are you making is going to benefit you or your network, benefit you personally, but it will benefit your network. So think about how you can be connecting other people, and then do what you say, and be conscious about your ability to follow up with people. I'm curious to know, Iris, do you recommend the use of executive coaches in order to ensure that you're building that network and that you're becoming more and more comfortable with approaching networking opportunities?
Oh, yes. I am a 100% supporter of executive coaches. I've used for myself. I recommend them to, colleagues. I recommend them to friends. I recommend them to people who are thinking about changing careers, because an executive coach or either, a career coach. But I am a big believer in having a second person to help you see things from a different lens. An executive coach is all about helping you be the best you, helping you get to where you want to be, and helping you see your blind spots.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the best thing you can have in your arsenal of becoming this new person or this person who wants to expand their network or grow, develop, go to another career field, another area, or meet more people. That person is there for you. They're there to help you. And I can't emphasize how wonderful that relationship is. And I'm still connected with my executive coach from like 5 years ago. I recommend a lot of people to her, but every once in a while I'll shoot her an email myself just to do a check-in, see how everything's going. And most of them are certified, and I love that because they're making sure they have their craft and their certification, and they're knowing what they're doing and talking about as they engage with people. But I think that's very vital, especially if you're looking to move up your career, especially an executive coach for someone who wants to go up the leadership ladder. I think you really need that. You need that person who's helping you not self-doubt. You need that person who's helping you think it through. Is this the time? Should you wait? Should you go? But they're all about you, and I think they're just a wonderful, wonderful resource to have.
That's great. I'm so excited to hear that. I don't know that I've gotten a really robust understanding of what an executive coach can do and the benefits of having one. So I think all of our attendees have benefited from you sharing that with us today. So thank you for that. Now I want to open up the conversation to our attendees through the use of Thoughtexchange, of course. And so Iris, what we're going to do, and for all of our attendees, Amelia has just posted a link to the Thoughtexchange so that you can ask Iris all of your burning questions or give her any of the thoughts that came up for you during this virtual event. I'm also going to share my screen with you guys right now so that you can see the other way that you can join the Thoughtexchange. Take your mobile device, open up your camera, zoom in on the QR code. When you do that, a pop down will come in. Click on that. It'll take you right through to the exchange. So that's the second way you can join. And then the third way to join the Thoughtexchange, of course, is through thoughtexchange.com/join, and then enter the 9-digit code you see here on the screen. Our question for today's exchange is, what thoughts or questions do you have for Iris? Once you get into the exchange, guys, what you're going to do is you're going to share one of your thoughts or questions. Let us know what you want to hear from Iris, what you want to dig deeper into with her now that we have her and now that you're able to join the conversation. After you've shared a thought or two, you'll move into the STAR step. And in the STAR step, what you're going to be doing is rating the thoughts and questions of others who are also participating in the exchange. This allows you to give a thought or question 5 stars if you really agree with it and you really want to hear from Iris, or give it on a scale to 1 star. If you're not really that into it, you don't want to hear from her about that particular topic, give it a 1. So anywhere between 1 and 5, you'll rate all of the thoughts and questions that you see in the exchange. And then after we've given you a few minutes to participate, we'll walk through the top thought report with Iris so that we can have a prioritized list of your thoughts and questions for the second part of this virtual event. So in order for you to participate, I need to be quiet, so I'm going to do that now. And get in there, share star, and then we'll discover all of the thoughts together. So I'll be quiet and I'll see you back here in just a few minutes. Okay, Iris, there's some really great questions in here. I hope that you're ready to dive into these thoughts and questions from our attendees. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, great. So our top question from today's exchange is, do you have any tips for starting your own networking events? I love this question because we talked about your experience with doing this. And I want to know what you would advise other people who are looking to do this to do.
Oh my goodness. Well, I think the first thing is making sure you have somebody to work with you on it. Don't do it by yourself because it does take a little time.
Okay.
Finding a place, sending out the evite, coordinating, making sure you have what it's going to look like, whether it's a photographer, food, just where it's going to be, that type of thing. I'd say the big thing as well is the time of day when you have it. That's the other thing, because we were able to actually do it like midday on a Saturday, so we were able to get a lot of people. We're looking to do our second event in December of this year, so we're trying to find a place. We're really searching, trying to find a place to have it. But I think the number one, having someone to work with you on it. It does take some time, especially if you're working full time. You need somebody to help you with the coordination and planning. Second, finding a location that's going to be good, location for people to park, maybe near metro or near public transportation. And three, making sure you think about what you want it to look like. Do you want people to talk about one topic? Do you want people to just mingle with each other? Will you have a speaker? Will you charge or not charge? I chose not to charge because I just wanted people to show up and interact and engage. But that's a great question.
That's really great. So find a partner to help with logistics. Think about time of day, location, parking, public transportation, what your topic or agenda is going to look like. There's lots of things to consider. So I can imagine that having a partner to help you with that, I think is really great. And I'm curious to know, let us know how the one in December goes, Iris,
Oh, yeah.
and any additional learnings that you have from that. I think our attendees would be really keen to hear it.
Oh, definitely will.
Okay, so the next one, great conversation as always. Love the pivot to what I can give to others as opposed to what I can get. Any advice for someone that feels they have nothing to give to the group they are networking with?
Oh my goodness. I guess I'm just the ultimate optimist. Everyone has something they can give because you can give your point of view, your perspective. You're coming from a different place to whatever this event might be. You're bringing in your experiences from where you've come from. It could be something that you've done on the side as a hobby. It could be a blog that you've done. It doesn't always have to be just career and job focused. It could be something else you can give to the conversation, to the person that you're meeting. It could be that you know someone at an organization that's been a family friend for years, and this person's been looking for a way to just get in and get, an informational interview or something like that. So never think you don't have something to give. Everyone has something they can contribute to the conversation. Everybody does.
No, that's great. I think the first step and exactly what you're describing, the advice you're giving, Iris, is that just don't think that you have nothing to give. And then just maybe take an inventory of all the things that you do have to give before you walk in there. That can probably help with that empowerment. I love that advice. Thank you.
Yeah.
So Iris, how did your executive coach help you and how long did you work with her?
Oh my goodness. So one of the things I really wanted was the first position I got into as a vice president, and I was coming from like a senior director level. That's when I realized I was like, I want an executive coach. I want someone to help me see this field that's laying ahead of me and help me to change my mindset from going from a very tactical role to a strategic role. And that's why I got an executive coach. And the first time I got her, I actually got her through a nonprofit organization, and they were offering this as a program, and it was like 6 months, and it was at a really, really great rate, and I just jumped right on it. And my organization ended up paying for it, and I was at a nonprofit at the time, and they actually paid for it. So it was a 6-month engagement that they paid for me to connect with her and to be with her. And after the 6 months, I decided to keep her. I was like, I'll pay for another 6 months because that's how important it was for me, because there was just some, landmines and different things like that were going from that very tactical to the very strategic that I didn't see and didn't understand. I've had plenty of mentors, and, I'd reached out to them too, but she really helped me see things from a different perspective and to question why I wanted to do something, look at it a different direction. So she really was able to help me with that. She had been in my field too, and that was a big part of it. She had been in human resources for a long time and at an executive level. So that was the other part that really was beneficial to me. She had walked the walk that I was going through, so that really, really helped. But after 6 months, I decided to pay for it myself and kept her as an executive coach for another 6 months.
I think that that's really great. I'm so glad you shared that with us, because I do think that after the director level, getting to that VP level, there is that shift in mindset, like you said, from tactical to strategic. And I think that that transition is difficult for a lot of professionals. And so having a resource to help you with that transition, I think is really, really important. The other thing that I love is that I'm hopeful that a lot of our attendees are taking from your experiences that it's possible that your organization, as they invest in leadership development, potentially would invest in an executive coach for you as you move from maybe a more tactical to a more strategic position. And so don't be afraid to discuss that with your direct superior or your HR team. I think that that's really great advice too.
Oh yes, it's a great benefit. It's a great benefit because it's showing you're developing yourself, and you're making professional development important for yourself as well.
That's great. How often should you meet with your network in person?
There's a few people that I meet with possibly maybe twice a year that I've met at different networking events and that are part of this circle of mine. And some people I meet with every quarter. I have one really good friend, a person I spoke of earlier, who spoke at my first networking event just for like 5-10 minutes and took questions. Me and her try to get together at least quarterly because she's located near where my job is. So we get together like quarterly. But it depends. It depends on, how much interaction, how much engagement, how much time you have. Some people, like I said, maybe twice a year, some every quarter. Some I talk to on the phone, like, once a month or something like that. So it depends on their schedule, my schedule, but I don't go a long time without talking to some very key people that are in my network.
That's great advice. This question, I'm really anxious to hear what your thoughts are. No pun intended, because anxious is in this question. I'm such an introvert and I get anxious going to networking events. How can I overcome this?
If you can reach out to someone who can go with you, that helps. It always helps to have a friend. And that friend might be someone who might meet someone at this event that can help them as well. So just a friend, someone that just coming in a pair can help you. It'll help take the anxiety off a little bit. The other thing is, and people have told me this, come into a room and look for that person who's talking that has a smile.
Yeah.
And I've had people do that to me. They come up to me because I smile and I speak and say hello, and they'll come up to me and I start that nice conversation. But people who are very welcome and open in networking settings, usually they're happy and smiling. They're happy to be there. They're motivated. They might be part of the event. They might be a speaker. You never know. They might be a panelist. But someone told me that. Look for that person that might be smiling, because there'll be someone you can walk up to and talk to, and they'll have that conversation with you.
Yeah. It's a warmth that attracts you to them. And so I think that that's great advice. Is it more valuable to go to in-person networking events versus LinkedIn? Iris, what do you think?
Oh my goodness, that's a hard one. I think it's 50-50 because it depends on what you're looking to do in your career.
Right.
LinkedIn will give you opportunity to connect with people across the country. You might not be able to meet these people. You might be able to talk to them on the phone, do a virtual with them, but an in-person definitely is going to give you that one-to-one, that connection, that synergy, or not. So, a lot of times people look good on paper, look good on LinkedIn, and you meet them in person, there might not be that connection there, or something like that. Or they might have a whole other purpose of wanting to meet you that's not genuine and open and real. So I'd say about 50-50. About 50-50.
That's great. What is something you still struggle with at networking opportunities?
I think the biggest thing I struggle with is at the very large networking opportunities, because a lot of times you'll get pulled into a conversation that goes on a little too long. For me, that's happened a few times. So I have to, very nicely and gingerly and kindly tell people, here's my card. Let's connect at another time. You can call me or email me, hit me on LinkedIn, because I just don't want to spend my entire time maybe with one or two people talking for 30 minutes when it's a large event. And I do want to try to connect with other people, or people are there to connect with me because they've already reached out to me ahead of time that they're going to be at the event, and they just want to stop, have a 5-minute conversation. So I still struggle with that a little bit.
Yeah, it's so funny. I do find that at networking events, Iris, there are kind of two separate, groups of people, camps of people, where there are some, like, it sounds like you, and I think I'm this way too, where I like to flutter. I like to flutter around, meet as many people as possible, quickly connect with them, and then assume that we'll have a follow-up conversation. And then there are some people at networking events that really do like to get really deep in a conversation and connect in a much longer amount of
Yeah.
time. And
Yeah.
I am just not of that camp. And so I
Yeah.
think I think the thing I struggle with is similar to you. Like, how do I find people who are like me in my camp of fluttering and not necessarily in the other camp that like to sit down and have a 45-minute conversation?
And it is. It's something you learn how to manage and maneuver over time, because a lot of times people get you and they get into a very deep, heated,
Right.
wonderful conversation, and they just want to go on and on and on, and nothing is wrong with that, but there's a time and place. And especially if the networking event is like an hour or 2 hours, you want to meet as many people as you can. Or if you just set that goal of 3 people, you want to meet 3 different people. You don't want someone to just take your whole entire time. That's that conversation you can have later on a call or meet for coffee or something like that.
Yeah, no, that's really great advice. What do you think is the size of a valuable network? How many people should be in it?
Oh my goodness. I'd say depending on who you are. I have a very big network. My network maybe is 50, 60 people. Oh my goodness. But it depends on who you are, and it grows. Mine grows because I sit on panels and I'm in, at conferences like where I met you, Angela, so you
Right.
meet people and it keeps growing and growing and growing. So it depends on who you are and where you are in your life and in your career. A small network, 5 to 6 people is fine. That's fine. That's manageable if you want that. The larger, you're going to have to, it's a little bit more work you put into it to stay connected and talking to people and connecting with people. But I'd say 5 to 6 people is just fine, because those are going to be people that you can bounce out ideas off of, connect with. They can connect you with other people. They're going to reach out to you when they have, something going on, issues, and they want your thoughts and your feedback on it. So it doesn't have to be huge. It doesn't have to be a huge, giant network.
I think that that's important for a lot of people, especially when they're starting out their career, to hear, because I think they feel kind of this pressure, innate pressure to create this very large network. And really it's about quality and not quantity based on your advice.
Oh yeah, yeah. That I can't emphasize that enough, Angela. I'm glad you brought that up. That quality. That is the big piece. That
Yeah,
is the big piece.
that's great.
That's how me and you got to talking and meeting at our conference. To
Absolutely,
connect.
absolutely. You're right. So you talked about this a little bit. What makes for a successful network? I think one of the things you said, of course, is that it's a size that you feel like you can still manage and have quality connections with. And then, do you have anything else you would add to that about what builds a successful network?
Don't be afraid of having people in your network that are so opposite from you,
I love
because that gives you a whole different perspective.
Yeah.
You have a whole different perspective. You don't want a network full of mini me's. You don't. You want to see different perspectives and hear different perspectives and get ideas that you'd never think of, and thoughts, and they're going to test you, and they're going to make you stop and pause, because they're going to question you. If they're different from you, they're going to question you. Like, why in the world would you do that? And they're coming from a genuine place of, why in the world would you do that? So I think you have to be mindful. You want people that are opposite. You want people with different opinions, different perspective, different walks of life. You want that.
That's great. I love that. I think that's really important. I'm so glad you mentioned that too. And then this is our final question for today, Iris. Where do you recommend finding networking opportunities?
Oh my goodness. Well, I'm here in the Washington, D.C. metro area, and there's actually, you can just Google this area, and it will bring up all the networking events in the area. I think, I'm trying to remember that site, like Evite sends it sometimes, but you can actually Google in your area where you are for networking events, and they'll give you everything from women's group to golfing groups to tennis groups to people in HR, people in accounting, people in finance, people in, membership development, fundraising, whatever that is.
Yeah.
If you Google that, you can really quickly find some networking opportunities in your area. Don't forget your college. Don't forget community colleges in your area or college that you went to. Don't forget just any hobby that you like. You can network at those events as well. And most events for networking are free. Most of the time, the group that's sponsoring it is usually doing it for free. If you go somewhere that's a restaurant with a bar or something like that, you might have to pay. But most organizations that are sponsoring it, they're just trying to grow the people in the group. And most of the time, it's free, or it's very little charge, like maybe $5, $10. But I've recommended it to plenty of people that I work with here when I talk to them about expanding their professional networking opportunities. Google this area, put in that you're looking for free networking events, and you'll get like 20, 30 that'll pop up.
That's
We have one that are women, very women focused out here in Northern Virginia, where our building is located. So that's a really good one that's out here too. But most areas have their own, and they have them for every career path that you're thinking about going to, and they're free most of the time.
That's great. Yeah, Google is your friend if you're looking for networking opportunities.
Yes.
That's great advice. Okay, Iris, I can't thank you enough for sharing all of your wisdom with us today. It's been wonderful having you. I'm so sorry I didn't get to see your face, but
Oh, I'm so sorry too.
I don't think that stopped us from having a really robust, valuable conversation. And so I just appreciate it so much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me, and I wish everybody a great rest of your day. And never forget, you have something to offer in that networking relationship. You have a purpose. You have something that someone would love to hear about, for you to share it, and they can help you get where you're going, and you can help them get where they're going. Just be open.
That's so great. Thanks for that reminder that we all have these gifts to share, and that should really be our focus as we build out our network. Okay, guys, if you want to learn more from Iris, please don't hesitate to get in touch with me. Of course, we'll send out a recording of this event with the link to the exchange that we ran today. So if you missed it, or if you want to share this with any of your colleagues, you'll be able to use those links to forward it on. If you want to learn more about Thoughtexchange, also get in touch with me. We've got Colin Bender actually is waiting to chat with you if you want to learn more about Thoughtexchange. Amelia has posted the link in the chat. Otherwise, we'll see you at our next Innovative Women in Leadership virtual event series. Thanks, everyone. Have a great week.